There is something deeply sacred about this moment, this quiet space, where the day has finally slowed and the noise has faded. It is here, in the stillness of the night, that we turn our hearts upward and gently invite the Holy Spirit to come near. Not with formality, not with fear, but with a sincere longing, because we know that without His presence, nothing we build around us can truly protect us within. You see, protection does not begin with walls, or routines, or even our own strength. It begins with surrender. It begins when the soul says, "I cannot do this alone." And in that simple, honest invitation, something begins to shift. The atmosphere changes. The heaviness starts to lift. Because the Holy Spirit does not force His way in, He responds to the welcome of a willing heart. So tonight, as we settle into this moment, we open every part of our being, not just the polished parts, not just the words we think sound right, but the hidden places too, the thoughts we haven't spoken, the worries we've carried all day, the quiet fears that linger when everything else goes silent. We lay it all before Him, and we say, "Holy Spirit, come. Come into this room. Come into this home. Come into every corner of this life. Fill the spaces we cannot reach on our own. Let your presence rest here, not as something distant, but as something real, something felt, something alive." Because when the Holy Spirit is present, everything changes. Fear loses its grip. Confusion begins to clear. Even the air feels different, lighter, calmer, steadier. It is not because the world outside has changed, but because something greater has entered within. And perhaps you've tried to carry things on your own. Perhaps you've gone through the day holding yourself together, pushing through, staying strong for everyone else. But now, in this moment, you don't have to strive anymore. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to figure it all out before you come. You simply come as you are, and you let Him meet you there. There is no distance too far, no burden too heavy, no heart too weary for the Holy Spirit to reach. And He comes gently, not with pressure, not with condemnation, but with a quiet assurance that you are not alone, that you have never been alone. So we invite Him not just with words, but with trust. We allow Him to take His rightful place, not as a visitor, but as the one who leads, who comforts, who guards. We acknowledge that true safety does not come from control, but from His covering. True peace does not come from having all the answers, but from knowing the one who does. And as we welcome Him, we begin to release everything we were holding on to. The tension in the body, the racing thoughts, the need to stay alert, the fear of what might happen in the night, we let it go piece by piece, breath by breath. Because we understand that when the Holy Spirit is present, we are no longer responsible for carrying what was never meant for us to carry alone. Let His presence settle over you like a gentle covering. Let it move through your thoughts, calming what feels unsettled. Let it reach into your heart, softening what feels heavy. There is no rush here, no urgency, just a quiet, steady invitation to rest in something greater than yourself. And as you do, you may begin to notice a shift, not something loud or overwhelming, but something subtle and sure. A sense of being held, a sense of being guarded, a peace that does not need explanation. This is what happens when the Holy Spirit is welcomed in truth. So tonight, we do not close our eyes in uncertainty. We do not enter the night in fear. We enter it covered, surrounded, and filled with a presence that does not fade when the lights go out. Holy Spirit, come and remain. And as that presence settles in, something very gentle yet very powerful begins to take place. When the Holy Spirit is truly welcomed, He does not remain at the surface. He begins to move quietly, deeply into the places we often avoid, the places we have learned to hide, even from ourselves, not to expose us in shame, but to free us in love. Because there are things that cling to the soul after a long day, words that wounded, thoughts that lingered too long, moments that stirred anxiety, heaviness that quietly built up. And sometimes we carry these things into the night without even realizing how much they weigh on us. But the Holy Spirit sees it all. And more than that, He desires to cleanse it all. So we allow Him to move, not resisting, not holding back. We open the inner rooms of our hearts and simply say, "Search me and cleanse me." Not out of fear, but out of trust. Because His cleansing is not harsh. It is not forceful. It is like a gentle washing, a lifting away of what does not belong, a restoring of what has been burdened. You may begin to sense it even now, the release of tension you didn't know you were holding, the quiet easing of thoughts that would not settle. This is how He works, softly yet completely. He begins with the unseen places, the thoughts that have been circling all day, the emotions that felt too overwhelming to process, the heaviness that sat quietly beneath the surface. And as He moves, there is a clearing. not just around you, but within you. Because darkness is not always something external. Sometimes it is the residue of fear, the shadow of doubt, the echo of past hurt. And it can cloud the mind, weigh on the heart, and steal the rest that was meant to restore you. But the Holy Spirit does not coexist with darkness. He gently drives it out, not with struggle, but with light. So we do not fight in our own strength. We do not try to fix ourselves before coming into His presence. We simply allow the light to enter. And where light enters, darkness cannot remain. Let Him touch your thoughts. Every anxious loop, every overthinking pattern, every silent worry, place it before Him. Let Him wash it clean. Let Him bring clarity where there was confusion, calm where there was noise. Let Him move through your emotions. The hidden stress, the quiet sadness, the frustration you carried without speaking. He sees it, and He is not overwhelmed by it. He draws near to it. And as He does, something begins to soften. Something begins to heal. And even beyond what you feel internally, we trust Him to cleanse what surrounds us. Every atmosphere carries something. Every space holds what has been spoken, what has been felt, what has passed through it. But when the Holy Spirit is invited, He purifies even the environment. He brings a stillness that replaces unease, a peace that settles deeper than anything external can disturb. You may not see it with your eyes, but you will sense it. A difference in the air, a quietness that feels safe, a covering that feels real. And there is no need to strive in this moment. Cleansing is not something you force, it is something you receive. Just as water washes without effort, His presence cleanses without strain. You do not have to hold on to the past. You do not have to carry what has already been released. You simply let it go, and trust that He is removing it completely. And as this cleansing continues, there is a lightness that begins to take its place, a freedom, a sense that something has shifted, not just temporarily, but deeply, as if the weight you carried into this moment is no longer yours to hold. This is what happens when darkness is no longer given space to remain. This is what happens when the Holy Spirit is allowed to do what only He can do. So we rest in that cleansing now. We rest in that gentle, powerful work that is happening beyond what we can fully understand. And we trust that nothing impure, nothing heavy, nothing hidden has the authority to stay where His presence abides. Holy Spirit, cleanse every part of me, within and around me. And as that cleansing continues, there comes a moment when we become aware that not everything we have faced has been accidental. Some things have pressed harder than they should have. Some battles have lingered longer than expected. Some heaviness has tried to return even after we thought it was gone. And in this quiet hour we acknowledge it, not with fear, not with panic, but with clarity. Because there is a difference between simply feeling weary and sensing resistance. And when that resistance shows itself, we do not shrink back. We do not become anxious. We do not give it power by fearing it. Instead, we stand in the authority that comes from the presence we have already welcomed. You see, the Holy Spirit does not only comfort, He strengthens. He does not only soothe, He defends. And when He is present, we are not left vulnerable to every unseen pressure or negative force that tries to disturb our peace. We are covered. We are guarded. And more than that, we are given authority to stand firm. So in this moment, there is no need to struggle. There is no need to fight in your own strength. You are not trying to overcome something by effort. You are simply aligning yourself with a power that is already greater than anything that could come against you. And sometimes what we call an attack is not always something dramatic or visible. It can be subtle, a sudden wave of fear that has no clear reason, a heaviness that arrives without warning, thoughts that do not feel like your own trying to pull you into doubt or anxiety, patterns that seem to repeat, even when you have tried to move forward. But here is the truth. You do not have to accept any of it. Because when the Holy Spirit is present, every influence that does not belong begins to lose its hold. Not because you force it out, but because it cannot remain where truth, light, and authority have been established. So we become still but not passive. We become calm but not unaware. There is a quiet confidence that rises, not from emotion but from knowing. Knowing that you are not at the mercy of what tries to disturb you. Knowing that you are not alone in what you face. Knowing that there is a covering over your life that cannot be easily shaken. And from that place, something shifts. You begin to release anything that has tried to attach itself to your peace. Every lingering fear, every oppressive thought, every weight that feels out of place, you let it go. Not gently holding on to it, not analyzing it, but releasing it fully. Because it does not belong to you. And as you release it, you begin to sense a firmness within you. Not tension, not resistance, but stability, as if something inside has become grounded again. Steady, unmoved. This is what happens when you stop reacting to pressure and start resting in authority. There is no need to name every force or understand every detail. You do not need to give attention to what has already been stripped of its power. The moment you stand in the presence of the Holy Spirit, anything that is not aligned with that presence must step back. So we do not dwell on darkness, we simply refuse to give it space. We do not entertain fear, we replace it with truth. We do not engage in struggle, we stand in peace. And even now you may begin to feel that shift more clearly. The pressure that once felt close now feels distant. The thoughts that once felt loud are becoming quiet. The atmosphere that once felt heavy is becoming clear. Not because you fought harder, but because you allowed something greater to take its place. And this is the confidence we carry into the night. Not that nothing will ever try to come against us, but that nothing has the authority to remain. Not that we must stay alert in fear, but that we can rest in assurance. Because the presence within you is stronger than anything around you. So let every trace of pressure, every form of resistance, every negative influence lose its hold completely. Let it fade, let it dissolve, let it fall away without struggle. You are not standing alone, and you are not standing without power. Every attack is broken, and every influence without truth has no place here. And as that sense of resistance fades and loses its hold, there is something even more tender that the Holy Spirit begins to address. It is not the external pressure now, but the internal response that may still linger. Because even after something has been lifted, fear can try to remain. It can sit quietly in the mind, whispering what if, replaying old worries, keeping the body tense when it was meant to rest. But this is the moment where we gently release it. Not by force, not by trying to silence every thought, but by allowing trust to rise in its place. Because fear cannot simply be pushed out, it must be replaced. And what replaces it is not denial, but a deep and steady confidence that you are truly safe. You may not always understand everything that happens around you. You may not have answers for every uncertainty. But peace was never meant to come from having control over every outcome. Peace comes from knowing who holds you, even when you cannot see what lies ahead. So now we let go of the need to control, the need to figure everything out before we can rest. The need to stay mentally alert, as if staying awake within ourselves will somehow protect us. It won't. That kind of striving only exhausts the soul. Instead, we lean into something far more powerful. We trust. Trust that you are being watched over. Trust that you are being guarded. Trust that what has been placed in the hands of the Holy Spirit does not slip through unnoticed. And as you begin to trust, you will notice something very real begin to happen within you. The tightness in your chest begins to ease. The thoughts that were racing begin to slow. The sense of needing to stay on edge begins to dissolve. Because fear thrives on uncertainty, but trust brings stillness even in the unknown. And perhaps there have been nights where fear felt stronger, nights where silence made everything louder, nights where your mind would not rest, and your heart felt unsettled without a clear reason. But tonight is different, not because the world has changed, but because your posture has changed. You are no longer facing the night alone. You are no longer carrying the responsibility of protecting yourself. You are no longer holding on to fear as if it serves you. You are releasing it, completely, gently, without resistance. And as you release it, there is no emptiness left behind. Instead, something fills that space. A quiet assurance, a calm presence, a deep knowing that everything is covered. This is what trust feels like. It does not shout. It does not rush. It settles. And the more you allow yourself to rest in it, the less room fear has to return. So when a thought tries to rise again, you do not engage with it. You do not follow it. You simply let it pass like a cloud moving across the sky, knowing it has no authority to stay. When a feeling tries to return, you do not hold on to it. You do not analyze it. You let it go because you know it is no longer yours to carry. And slowly, steadily, your entire being begins to align with peace. Your body begins to rest. Your mind begins to quiet. Your spirit begins to feel light again. There is no urgency here, no pressure to get it right, just a gentle, ongoing release into trust. Because the Holy Spirit is not only near, He is faithful, faithful to remain, faithful to God, faithful to bring peace that does not depend on circumstances. And when that truth settles deeply within you, fear no longer has a place to stay. So tonight you do not lie down with worry. You do not close your eyes with uncertainty. You rest in something far greater than your understanding. And that is enough. I release all fear, and I choose to trust completely. And as that trust settles deeply within you, something beautiful begins to unfold, something that goes beyond simply letting go of fear. There is a restoration that begins to take place, quiet and steady, like a gentle tide returning to shore. Because when fear leaves and trust takes its place, the heart finally has room to heal. You may not have even realized how much you were carrying. Sometimes the weight builds slowly, through conversations that linger, disappointments that quietly settle in, responsibilities that never seem to pause. And even when you've done your best to keep moving forward, something inside can grow tired, not just physically but emotionally. But this is the moment where restoration begins. Not by striving, not by trying to fix everything at once, but by allowing the Holy Spirit to gently bring you back to a place of wholeness. He does not rush the process. He does not overwhelm you with demands. He meets you right where you are, and he begins to restore what has been worn down. You might feel it first as a sense of calm, a stillness that wasn't there before. The kind of calm that doesn't depend on everything being perfect, but simply rests in the assurance that you are being cared for. And as that calm settles in, it begins to reach deeper places, into the heart that has felt stretched, into the emotions that have felt heavy, into the thoughts that have been quietly exhausted. And without pressure, without force, something begins to soften, because healing often begins in the softening. Where tension once held everything tightly together, there is now a gentle release. Where emotions once felt overwhelming, there is now space to breathe. Where your mind once felt crowded, there is now clarity and quiet. This is not something you have to create, it is something you receive. And the more you allow yourself to receive it, the more deeply it begins to work within you. There may be places in your heart that have been carrying hurt for longer than you expected. Words that stayed with you, moments that didn't resolve the way you hoped, feelings that you pushed aside just to keep going. But nothing is hidden from the Holy Spirit, and nothing is beyond his ability to restore. He does not reopen wounds to cause pain. He touches them to bring healing. And sometimes that healing feels like a quiet reassurance, a sense that you are safe to let go now, safe to release what you've been holding on to, safe to rest without needing to protect yourself from every memory or every emotion. And as you begin to release those deeper layers, something remarkable happens. The weight that once felt like part of you begins to lift. The heaviness that once felt permanent begins to fade. And in its place, there is a lightness that feels almost unfamiliar but deeply right. This is what restoration feels like. It is not loud. It is not overwhelming. It is steady, gentle, and real. And it reaches into every part of you. Your mind begins to settle into a rhythm of peace instead of pressure. Your heart begins to feel open instead of guarded. Your body begins to relax instead of brace itself. Everything within you begins to align with rest. And perhaps for the first time today, or even in a long time, you feel that you can truly breathe. Not a shallow breath, not a rushed moment of relief, but a deep, steady breath that reminds you you are no longer carrying what once weighed you down. And the beauty of this restoration is that it is not temporary. It is not something that disappears when the moment passes. It is something that continues, something that deepens, something that stays with you even as you move forward. Because the Holy Spirit does not just calm you for a moment, he renews you from within. So tonight, you do not simply rest your body, you restore your soul. You allow every part of you to settle into that peace, to receive that healing, to be renewed in a way that goes beyond what words can fully describe. There is nothing you need to prove, nothing you need to fix, nothing you need to carry any longer. You simply rest and let the restoration continue. My heart is healed and your peace restores me completely. And as that restoration settles deeply within you, there comes a natural and quiet confidence that begins to rise. Not something forced, not something you have to convince yourself of, but something that feels steady and certain. It is the confidence that comes when you know you are covered. When you know that what has been placed in the hands of the Holy Spirit is not left unguarded. So now in this calm and restored place, we begin to speak with that quiet assurance. Not out of fear, not out of desperation, but out of alignment with what has already been established within us. Because there is power in what we declare when our hearts are at rest and our spirits are anchored in truth. We begin to declare protection over this night, over every moment of rest, over every breath we take as we sleep. Not as a ritual, not as empty words, but as a reflection of what we truly believe, that we are not lying down in uncertainty but in safety. That nothing enters this space without passing through a greater presence. That nothing has the authority to disturb what has already been covered. And as we declare this, there is no tension in it. There is no striving to make it happen. There is simply agreement with what is already true. A quiet, steady knowing that this night is held, that this space is guarded, that you are secure. Let that assurance settle over your body as you prepare to rest. Every muscle that once held tension begins to release even further. Every part of you that felt the need to stay alert begins to let go. Because you understand now you do not need to watch over yourself. You are being watched over. And this covering does not end with the night. It extends into tomorrow. Into every step you will take, every conversation you will have, every situation you will face. The same presence that is with you now does not disappear when the morning comes. It goes before you. It remains with you. It surrounds you in ways you may not even notice, but will certainly feel. So you do not wake up tomorrow carrying the weight of today. You do not rise with the same heaviness, the same tension, the same fear. You rise renewed. You rise strengthened. You rise with a quiet confidence that whatever comes, you are not facing it alone. And even now, as you think about the day ahead, there is no need for worry to return. There is no need to anticipate problems or replay concerns. Those things no longer have a place here. They have been released. They have been lifted. In their place, there is a sense of readiness, not anxious readiness, but peaceful readiness. The kind that comes from knowing that you are prepared, not because you have everything figured out, but because you are covered in every way that matters. And this is how we end this moment. Not by holding on tightly, but by resting fully in what has already been done. The cleansing has taken place. The heaviness has been lifted. The resistance has lost its hold. Fear has been released. Peace has been restored. And now protection is established. There is nothing left for you to strive for in this moment. Nothing left for you to carry into the night. Everything has been placed where it belongs. So you allow yourself to rest completely, to close your eyes without hesitation, to let your mind settle without resistance, to trust fully in what surrounds you and remains with you. And even as you drift into sleep, that covering does not fade. That peace does not weaken. That presence does not leave. It remains steady, constant, unshaken. This is not just a moment. This is a state of rest, a state of being held, guarded, and renewed. And you remain in it even as the night passes and a new day begins. I am covered, I am protected, and I will rise in peace,